you went from that to, and then you had a public relationship with a guy named Aubrey Marcus, where I guess you collabed with, the origin of On It, which is a very famous brand. Obviously, a lot of people know. If you don't know Aubrey Marcus, then you might know Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan was an investor slash, I guess, business owner in there. So you went from that, and then you know you wanted to basically tell your own story, and now you're doing country music, and then you have your own podcast. Tell people a little bit more about your podcast. And I know you said it's about relationships and stuff. What you said that your relationship with Aubrey Marcus triggered you to create this podcast. Like, that was the origin story of the podcast, because people were asking you questions. They're like, listen, I have a lot of, personal relationship problems with my wife or my girlfriend or my boyfriend or my husband or whatever. And it seems like you guys have it all together. Whether that's the case or not, that's another story. But can you give me advice, right? So what were these people specifically asking you about your relationship?
Well, Aubrey and I had an unconventional relationship. So we were in a polyamorous relationship for 6 years, which people don't talk about. It's still
explain that to people that don't know what you're talking about, the word.
Yeah, so polyamory just means you have multiple loves. So in the way that you structure your specific relationship is really up to the two people or the multiple people within the relationship. So you hear it called an open relationship, could be like the umbrella term of it. For us, we were primary partners, and we were able and encouraged to have relationships with other people if we so desired. And it was the biggest learning experience. I think I can speak for him as well, in our life, because for me, I was always raised that that's not even an option to have a relationship like that. It's not something that's talked about. It's actually, people talk down upon it, or they always say there's something wrong with the people or pathological or whatever it is. We're supposed to be monogamous beings. Yet, there's the 50% divorce rate. We have infidelity out of the butt. Like, it's just insane. But yet we have no other plan. We have no other blueprint, and we have no other idea how to have a relationship that can be healthy and work. And so at that time, I wasn't interested in being in this type of relationship. It was scary to me. I didn't know how I could handle it. I came from a really jealous background. I was always very jealous. I never, my boyfriend could never even look at another person because I just had all of this going over in my head. And so when 2 years into our relationship, when Aubrey mentioned trying this type of relationship out, I said no. And that wasn't something that I was interested in doing. I could never do it. I went traveling and came back and decided, you know what? I don't know if I can do this. I don't know how it's going to go. I don't know if I'm going to like it or I'm going to hate it, if it's going to go completely up in flames. I have no idea. So let me just find out for myself instead of trying to come up with my own narrative without really knowing. And so we did it for 6.5 years, 6 years. Yeah.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Right now, currently, are you taking the same approach in your new relationship or whatever is going on in your life personally?
No, I am in a fully monogamous relationship, and I'm loving it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
it feels really good.
Absolutely. So I've never experienced what you did, because that sounds awesome. But obviously, stuff on paper theoretically sounds better than an actual experience, right? It's like I can say a bunch of shit and theoretically it sounds amazing, but to actually implement that into real life and create, it's like an architect versus like the engineer versus the people actually building, right? It's like you can say, I want this, I want that, and this, and it sounds amazing. Like the blueprints look great. It's an impeccable blueprints. But when you go to actually build it, you're like, oh, fuck, I can't do this because the plumbing is over here and we actually can't do that. So we got to go back to the drawing board and redesign the blueprint. So why the switch? And would you recommend other couples, if they're, I guess you could say, for lack of a better word, bored, but still love their significant other, but to save it, they might want to sleep with other people? What would you tell that person?
Well, let me answer the first question. Why the switch? For me, I think I've always felt more safe in a monogamous relationship, but I wanted to try it out and see how it went. We had some really beautiful times, really great times, and some extreme challenge too, because it's something that challenges every ounce of your being. Every shadow that you haven't looked at is going to be magnified 100 times day in, day out. It's like you're in constant ceremony every single day, which can be beautiful because I learned why I would get jealous. I learned where my insecurities came from. I learned how I could get over them. I learned like all of these specific things, and truly it just made me a better human being. It made me more compassionate, more empathetic. It made me more sympathetic. Like it just softened me as a person because I know my triggers and I know what's going on there. But there again, it's a hell of a lot of work. And so after Aubrey and I split, both of us are in monogamous relationships right now. And we've had a conversation about it, and he asked me how it's going. And for me at this point, it's easy. Like it's so easy for me. It's like a walk in the park. I'm like, this is awesome. And so it's just interesting to kind of like see how it goes. I'm also the believer that depending on what season you are in your life, for now, I'm in a monogamous relationship, and for the foreseeable future, that's what it will be. However, if I'm in this relationship for 10 years, I feel like that's something that will benefit the relationship as a whole and be something that can bring more love and more passion and more excitement between me and my partner, then I'm interested in having that conversation. But I think that's what's really cool about being able to build your own relationship is that you get to decide at what point and what's going on in your life, what type of relationship you want to have. So for the couple who's having a hard time, maybe they've been together for a really long time, maybe they haven't been having sex, maybe they're whatever it is. Do I recommend an open relationship? No, I don't recommend an open relationship for anyone, but I am a supporter of them if that feels good for you. If they're like, you know what, I think this is something that I want to try. Great, go for it. 100%. I'm in support of whatever relationship makes you feel the most fulfilled.
That makes a lot of sense. And I don't want to talk really about your past relationships too much, but I feel like this is kind of needed for people to have the clarity if this is something that they would like to indulge in. Did your past relationship not work or wasn't successful because of that specific niche of your relationship, or did it crumble? I don't want to say crumble, but was it not fully successful based off of something completely irrelevant to being with other people?
Yeah, so I would even take that a little bit differently. To me, it was a very successful relationship, like 100%.
Okay.
Like through and throughout. I think in our society today, we say that time equals success. And so
Right.
my 8-year relationship with Aubrey wasn't a success, but truth of the matter is it absolutely was. And I don't look back on it thinking like, oh man, I wasted my time, or I had this was a failure to me, and he doesn't either. It's just, we learned so much in that time period that I will forever be grateful for that. Do I think that regardless of what relationship me and Aubrey were in, monogamous, polyamorous, open, whatever terms you want to use, would it have lasted? No, I think we had an expiration date. And I think probably being in an unconventional relationship kept us together longer than if we were in a strictly monogamous relationship. So yeah, it's I think just me and Aubrey as two individuals, it was our time. We spent 8 years together, and those 8 years was really all our souls needed at that time. And he's happier where he's at, and I'm happier where I'm at. And so to me, it's like, great, this is awesome.
That's awesome. And you guys are still currently friends, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Yeah. So gun to the head, someone comes to you and says, "Should I do this or not?" What are you saying? Yes or no? Black or white?
You? I'm not gonna. I won't sit here and tell anyone if they should do it. If they're like, no, I don't want to do it, I'm like, you have to do it.
Just do it, bro.
Like, do you want to do it? They get to make the decision up for
What if
them.
they're
And
on the
that's
fence? What if they're on the fence? What if they've had jealous patterns in the past
mm,
and they're open to it, but they know themselves well enough that they might get jealous, maybe, during the acts, or knowing that like maybe your significant other is at another guy's house or a girl's house, they're hooking up,
yeah.
but you want to save your relationship because it's kind of like, okay, well, we really don't want to have that much sex anymore. We're kind of like roommates at this point, but I still love you as a partner for other reasons. But the sexual, passionate desire that we had in the beginning is non existent. What would you tell that person that's kind of like the gray area? Like they're on the fence, but maybe they're not 100% secure in their emotions, that they might not, flip once, reality sets in and they're like, oh shit, my partner's actually having sex with someone right now.
I think for that person to expect
Mhm.
those jealous tendencies or thoughts or whatever to come up,
Okay.
because I mean that's how I was, and that's how
Yeah.
Aubrey, and we've done, like, Aubrey and I have done hundreds of episodes on this and diving into it. And he's mentioned how he didn't know one night if he was going to throw up or poop in his pants. He was like bawling, crying on the floor because I was with
Mm,
somebody else. There's been times where I've done the same thing. And so
right.
you just have to expect for that jealousy to come up and say, like, okay, what can I learn from this?
Mm,
And so for that couple, it's a viable option. It is. But through my coaching business, through this, I always told them, you can start small. You don't have to go 0 to 60 to where you're, hiring a dominatrix in a dungeon or something.
Wait,
But like,
what? I was about to order one right now. Is there an app, or can I order that
I
on
mean,
like GoPuff?
there might be.
I'm just kidding.
Um,
I will get stabbed by my girl.
But the other
Yep.
thing is, like, you can take it small. Like, you can watch your partner flirt at a bar with somebody. You can, go
Ooh,
on like
man.
little dates here and there that's only for lunch or it's only for dinner. There's no sexual
Mm,
intercourse. There's no making out. There's no this. You really get to choose your own adventure. But I think first and foremost, for anyone who's like, that sounds kind of interesting to me, I don't know how I would handle that, is to have just a complete intellectual conversation about it with pressure, you and your partner going off and doing anything at all. So read,
interesting.
un- yeah, read Untrue by Second Ron, read The New Monogamy, read More Than Two, listen to podcasts like this or podcasts that I've done, True Sex and Wild Love, my own show,
Mhm.
and just have a solely intellectual conversation with your partner. How do you think this would
Yeah.
be? What do you think you would
Yeah.
feel? How would you feel about this? What if I did this? And there's no pressure that you're going out to do anything at all. It's just like, let's chat about
Interesting. Yeah, it's kind of like microdosing like LSD. You don't want to go full balls to the walls and start the paint and the paint in the pictures start melting and like statues start talking to you, but you want to kind of get that experience of, okay, I want to know how it feels, but I'm not going, you know, balls deep, for lack of a better word, right?
it. Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah, but we all know people love going balls deep on multiple things. So for the
Mhm.
extreme personalities like myself, it, you know, definitely consider what you're doing. For every action, there's a consequence. It might be a good consequence, it might be a horrific consequence, but just keep in mind that everything you do has an action or side
Yep.
effect, attached or fused in the result, to say. Um, so you said something interesting that I want to kind of like rip open. Is you said that you, before you were in this relationship where you had multiple partners, you were borderline insecure and you were not about it. How did you change? Like what flipped? And if somebody is like that, but they're like, man, why can't I be with multiple people? Why can't he or she be with multiple people? Like, is my ego and my jealousy, like this primordial, primitive part of my brain, holding me back? But if we're thinking if we're thinking in a more evolved state, right? Like the future of mankind, when people evolve, you know, most people do stuff to feel good and to survive, and that's why guys chase girls, and girls want guys with money. They want guys that have muscles, because it's all security and the psychology of the men and women of what we want and what we desire. is definitely different, but it's all from our primitive brain, female and male. So if you can use your prefrontal cortex and, make more logical decisions, not emotional decisions, you kind of see a world like in 100, 200 years where, yeah, you can kind of do whatever you want. There's not really that jealousy, or jealousy is hindered to some point. And maybe we'll have technology. Maybe Elon will, in Neuralink, will take the jealousy part of your brain, or maybe like you don't want jealousy completely evaporated, because jealousy does have some good points. It definitely triggers motivation, but maybe like 10% jealousy, or possibly you can turn it on and off, where you're like, okay, today I want to have 10% jealous, and you go into the Neuralink app, you click it, and now the jealousy is going to promote you to be, a better entrepreneur, or a better singer, or a better lover, or whatever, right? But then when you know that your partner is with somebody else, okay, boom, you hit the app, jealousy's off, zero feeling. It's like being muted, like a cortisol blocker or a beta blocker, to say you will, right? These are just the
Yeah.
weird things I think about when I'm in the sauna. So full circle here. What would you say to someone that knows their primordial brain is telling them to be jealous, but they feel that they're more evolved intellectually, that they know that this could work if I take out my emotions? How did you change that? And what would you recommend, like the blueprint of somebody going through that process?
Yeah, I think just being okay with your jealousy, like I think jealousy is this big, ugly J word that we don't want to have and we don't want to feel, and we need to do everything we can to get rid of it, when I think it's totally normal and completely natural, particularly when it comes to romantic relationships. And so when you made the point of like, I wish I could just, maybe we could just turn our jealousy off when my partner is with somebody else. If I were able to do that during the 6 years that we had this type of relationship, or my whole life for that matter, I feel like it would have really taught me of the lessons that I gained from that experience, because the jealousy was something that taught me so much, because I would sit there and be like, okay, why am I feeling jealous right now? What is it? I've agreed to this logically. Logically, I understand this. Logically, I agreed to this. And now here I am spinning my wheels, freaking out, taking me into this deep, dark place. Why? And where is this coming from? So I think if jealousy does arise in any of our relationships or any point, throughout our lives, it's like, okay, why am I feeling this way? And for me, what I like to do is tap into my physical body. So it's like, okay, sometimes it feels like your throat is, dry, and you can't really fully speak. You're there. Maybe it's a chest, or maybe it's your gut, and you feel like you've been punched in the gut. For me, like being able to tap into that, I feel like your physical body gives you messages way before your brain, because they were just wired that way. And I tap into it. Oh, I'm having this weird sensation in my throat. Maybe it's because I'm not saying what I've been really wanting to say. And so I'm like creating this other narrative, and it's taking me down that way. Or maybe if it's in my gut, I don't trust the situation. I don't trust my environment. But hold on, am I safe? Yes, I am safe. Right. Okay, so where is this really coming from? What's underneath that? I think so often we point at like, my partner is doing this, so that's why I feel jealous. And it's like, if we took that and pointed it to ourselves and really understood where our triggers were, because what makes me feel jealous may be completely different than what makes you feel jealous. And so I want to understand what inside of me, or what beliefs or self-limiting beliefs or attachments that I've gained from society and my family that's making me believe that this is a situation that's unsafe for me.
Right. Interesting concept. Okay. Yeah, I definitely think there's some caveats that people can extract and implement into their own life with that. Yeah. It's not common.
It's okay to be jealous. Like, I just want people to feel okay, because jealous can be healthy. Now, if you're being jealous and how you respond to that jealousy is the main thing. But if you can respond to jealousy in a very healthy way by questioning why you feel that way, it can really set you free. Because if I can tell you, if I've gone to how I was the person going through phones, hacking into emails, like, don't look at other people.
Fucking Harriet, we got Nancy Drew over here.
Yeah, but then to be in a relationship where I was accepting of the fact of my fiance being with other women, it's crazy. So
Right.
it's like, I know that there's a shift that can happen if that's something that people are interested in doing.